Today we're going to talk about a South Korean 2011 movie called The Silenced. It's also known as The Crucible. Its Korean name is Dogani. Um, so there are some movies that has a backstory, but this movie has lots of them. Um, we'll talk about that, but let's talk about the movie itself first. It's based on real events that happened between 2000 to 2005 to 6 in Gwangju, Inhwa School, if I'm pronouncing it right. So one teacher comes from Seoul, for his job in deaf school or school where their students are basically handicapped of, by some way or another. And this job is very important for him because he has paid some kind of bribe to get this job, some kind of link to get this job. And it is important for him for his daughter's treatment. His daughter is suffering a very um, unique disease that needs lots of money, and he has to get the money. So he uses his mother's bank account, and we get to know that his wife is no more. When his daughter was born, his wife passed away. So he's a single father, has lots of responsibility, want to save his daughter, and uses his mother's saving account to get this job. So this job is very important for him in rural area or suburban areas of northern South Korea. He comes into the city. He starts teaching students, and he finds something is wrong with the behavior of the students. They're so afraid that they just don't talk, interact normally. Some of them couldn't even talk. They use sign languages, but there is certain fear, an environment of fear. And he basically asks himself, why is the fear? Maybe he's new, something like that. But he suddenly finds out that uh, there is something horrific going on underneath the school building, and school administrator to teachers are involved in them, and that's why students are so afraid of everything. And uh, spoiler alert, I have to go in spoiler zone because if you haven't seen this movie, you might pause on this area and probably watch the movie and come back and see this review. But if you want to know, this movie has a you know very I'm very uncomfortable even talking about this, but young students, the deaf students, are raped brutally or sexually molested, and and most of the students are staying in residence, school residence, because they have no family member or anybody to take care of them. And those horrific crimes actually happened, and the film shows the horrific scenes as well, right? And now the lead actor we have here, he reacts. I mean, he although he needs the job, he goes for the students. He stands for the students, and he goes and um, take the confession of the student and what has happened and what has been happening for a long time, and then file a lawsuit, and the whole whoever are responsible for such crimes get into court. But um, again, spoilers. The court gives them very um, lenient, yes, a lenient kind of punishment, and for that, um, he fights again and again and again, in legal way as much as possible. But the law, there is some sort of restriction in the law for the minor who are being assaulted, and by using those sort of loopholes into the law, the perpetrators get away with very lenient penalties from the court. And this and how one of the victim reacts and goes to get the revenge, and what happens next as well. It's basically the story of Dogani, or the Crucible, or the Silence. It's one of the finest movie you'd probably ever see. But there are scenes of rape actually happening on the kids. There are These scenes were there to make you feel what really happened, and what really happened after that in the court as well, and as a perpetrator gets away with very lenient kind of uh, very lenient uh, punishment. And this happened. Now I'm going to the backstory of the movie. This happened during 2002, 2000 to 2005, and a teacher reacted in the same way, went to the court, and court gave them a very lenient punishment. And as a result, not huge media coverage were there. Not really many people heard about this. An author wrote a book based on the incidents, and those books were spread a bit. People still, in majority, were unaware of that, what happened in that school. One day, probably one of the actors, the lead actor in this film, Gwangju, has read the book, and he thought this this should be spread more, and he called his producers to make this as a movie. And producers came up with the idea, and based on that book, this movie was made. This movie has no happy ending. It's as it is what happened in the real life. So after this movie being released, it was probably was one of the top movie of 2011. Lots of people watched it, and people started to talk over the problem of the law, and how people started to discuss, started to write petitions, and then government had to react. Government had to change the loopholes of the law, which is known as Dogani. If I'm saying correctly, Dogani, and reinstated, and reopened the case as well. And then those perpetrators who got away with 6 months or 4 months of punishment have got 8 years or 9 years of punishment. It's still not great given what happened in the movie. You witness. Some of the movies that you get really angry and irritated by the system and the legal system of South Korea, but this movie was intended to make you angry, intended to make you feel that way. That's why the discussion started. And hats off to the lead actor, to the entire team of this movie, who brought these topics into the daylight of the public domain, and public started to talk about it, and then the change happened through the government. So this is not just a movie, this is more than a movie. It's almost like a social reformation and social reassurance of that what should happen on such crimes, and why it's not okay for the perpetrators to get away with easy kind of punishment. So from that standpoint, this movie made its mark, and it probably won a lot of award as well. But in terms of just the quality of movie, it is very emotional, very emotional. In terms of acting, Gwangju and Jun Mi has been fantastic. The entire cast, especially the kids, has been fantastic. Um, they had to learn the sign language, and it's been, fantastic performance all over the board. And as well as the direction of the film, Dong Duke has been fantastic in terms of direction and bringing out the emotion and true color of the horrific incident that happened into that school, and um, technical elements as well, from the code crew, um, and from courtroom to the one-on-one confession. It's been really well made film. If you haven't checked this out, this movie, please do. It's a must watch. It's the sort of film that you should watch, no matter you get uncomfortable about it. But that's reality. That's happened and happening in the world, and we need to see it. And if we need to make our world a better place, we need to make such films that is based on real injustice, and change ourselves and our law, by the periphery of our justice system, if there is any kind of loophole that criminals can get away. So from that standpoint, it's one of the finest movie I've ever seen. Simultaneously very uncomfortable, very irritated. But again, hats off to the team, especially Gong Yu, for bringing this movie to us. Thank you.